How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about the White House Correspondents Association banning One America News, also known as OAN, from the White House Press Briefing Room because they said one of their journalists, Chanel Ryan, violated the quote-unquote social distancing guidelines the WHCA has set by really being there in general, because apparently it was not her turn to be there and they're trying to limit the number of people that were actually in the room. Now, this is kind of a deep story, and it's crazy because WHCA says they represent freedom of the press, freedom of journalists. The president has been trying to assault the freedom of press because, before I go any further, let's not forget, or I'll just let you know, the White House Correspondents are an independent organization. They work in the White House and they give out credentials to those that are allowed to be in the White House and cover the president, but they are independent 501c3. And the reason why they started was because back in the early 1900s, there was an unfounded, quote unquote, unfounded rumor that a congressional committee were selecting journalists to go to the press briefings and conferences of Woodrow Wilson. So they said, rather than having the government be involved with this, let's take it outside of the government, give it to an independent organization. However, the president obviously can supersede them in particular cases. Like, for example, they cannot give a credential to somebody to be in there and cover the president if that person would not be allowed in the White House in general. If they can't get past Secret Service or whatever, they're not going to be allowed to be in there. Their job is to select a journalist. The president does not select who's going to cover him and who does not. And if you want to see the current officers of WHCA, I'll place them on the screen before you, but I'll move on. The reason why they're there is to select journalists. That's really it. And they also sometimes fight for journalists. Like I said earlier, they purport themselves to be in favor of freedom of speech and freedom of the journalists, freedom of the press, but that's not always the case. I mean, with Chanel Ryan, apparently they're not necessarily for freedom of the press, but people like, I don't know, Brian Karam, the guy from Playboy magazine that was a White House correspondent, when he got his press pass revoked because he was trying to fight Sebastian Gorka in the White House, or like right outside the White House on the lawn or whatever that was, they went to court for him and fought. Were they successful? I'm not really sure. But they went to court for him in that particular situation. And the same thing with Jim Acosta. Remember that whole thing back last year? I think it might have been in November, when he was basically trying to arm wrestle the girl for the microphone. He's asking the president some crazy questions and is not wanting to relinquish the microphone. The president says, that's enough, give it up. He doesn't want to do it. So the girl comes up to him, attempts to take a microphone away. He's resisting. So for that whole display, the arm wrestling with the girl and belligerent and acting the fool, his press pass was revoked, and then they went to bat for him. And his press pass was initially reinstated, which is why he's still in the White House doing different things today. However, when it comes to Chanel Ryan, they not only want to ban her, they want to ban OAN, which is not just her. It's a whole news network. Now, what maybe they don't know, or what maybe the media does not know, is that Chanel Ryan was invited by Stephanie Grisham. Stephanie Grisham is the White House press secretary.
Well, Jen, I spoke with Stephanie Grisham this morning. I met with her. We discussed the situation, and she invited me again to attend the briefing today as her guest, standing in the back. And I will be in the briefing room today if there's no physical complications with that. She has stated explicitly that she had invited me in both instances, both the yesterday and the day before when we were not on rotation, to stand in the back of the room. So
if the White House press secretary is inviting you to the briefing room, what are you going to say if you just are a journalist? Because that's what the WHCA are. They're journalists. They're not governmental employees. OK, so press secretary, journalist, I'm not really sure how you're going to be able to supersede that. Furthermore, she was not violating any kind of social distancing rule, which is what they said from the beginning. I put a picture on the screen before you. You can see her all the way in the back. There's nobody really that close to her. OK, if she is close to anybody, it's no closer than the photographers are to each other and to the president. So this whole thing about, oh, you're not social distancing, you're violating our rules, that's why we're suspending you, this, that, and the third, doesn't really hold water, because number one, she was a guest of the press secretary, and number two, she's way off in the cut, tucked in the back, you can barely see her. All right. I think the main thing is that OAN is a conservative channel, and they're upstart, and a lot of these people, you know, from Politico and ABC and CBS, number one, they don't like the president. I think the chief of the WHCA, Jonathan Karl, came out and has said many negative things about the president, so they don't like him. So anytime there's an organization that comes up or a person that comes up and challenges them on the left, like John Karl, they don't like that, and they want to try to do any little kind of underhanded tactic to get them out of the way. It's very simple. If it's about violating rules and having decorum, then why go to the bat for Brian Karem? This man almost was getting ready to fight in the White House. Let's take it outside, all this, that, and the third, threatening people, right? Same thing with Jim Acosta, trying to arm wrestle the girl for the microphone inside the White House, acting the fool on television. That's fine. You want to go to court for them. You want to fight for them. You want to write op-eds and think pieces for them. But then when it comes to Chanel Ryan, a minority, by the way, because you guys want to say, oh, we're a big proponent of minority, all and a third, a minority in a conservative station, all of a sudden, that goes out the window. So you want to defend a white man trying to fight somebody because he's on your side on the left, but the Asian woman is not so much. Now, I'm not caught up on race, but the left are. People like Jonathan Karl are. So when it really boils down to it, they're not really about race. When you're on their side, it's all kumbaya and, you know, come to my house, it's all good. You can take your shoes off, throw it on the ground, there's no problem. But then when you think differently, oh, no, all that goes out the window. All the, you know, minority appreciation, minority inclusion is gone. It's funny how that works. But like I said, Chanel Ryan and OAN, as a result, will be in the White House today because she is still a guest of Stephanie Grisham, the White House press secretary. What would the WHCA do about this? Talk about it during the correspondents' dinner. Don't care about that. The president probably won't go. I don't think he went last time. That's a thing of the past at this particular point. All they're going to do, like you may have noticed, is go there and try to insult the president. So what's the point? These guys, you know, at a certain point, as I close, these guys are having to realize that they're becoming irrelevant. They're becoming obsolete. They're not who the people want. You can't silence us. You know, we have too many friends in very high places. If it were not for the fact that Stephanie Grisham invited Chanel Ryan, you might not see anybody from the right in there. In a little thing they wrote in defense of banning OAN, they said there has to be a rotation of every 10 days to get into a particular seat in the White House because of limited space or whatever the case may be. But there was nothing in there about saying you can't have any guests if you are the White House staff. You know, that's something that you can't control. I can be here if the White House says I can't be. You can't control that. But I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? Do you think the White House Correspondents Association were trying to ban OAN because they're conservative? If that's your viewpoint, let me know why in the comments below. Or did they ban the entire OAN from the White House Press Briefing Room because of what Chanel Ryan allegedly did by violating social distancing? If that's your viewpoint, let me know why in the comments below. I think what happened here is obvious. The leftist media, which is dominant in the WHCA, they don't want anyone conservative coming in there and selling their shine. Okay, Chanel Ryan did excellent, asked some of these questions. She was criticizing the mainstream media, and the mainstream media does not like that. Okay, it's all good when you're attacking the president. It's all good when you're trying to say Trump is the worst thing in the world or Orange Man bad, and you're trying to pick fights with those on the right. That's okay, right? That's fine. But then when the proverbial script is flipped and now you're being attacked, you're being criticized, you're being put on the screen and examined, all of a sudden things become different and you want to quote unquote stifle the speech, the same thing you accuse the president of doing, although you're the ones actually doing it. But this is pretty typical of the left, especially in the mainstream media. Do as I say, but never as I do. And whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.